Welcome to the TAMS training session. Today's session, we will be reviewing a very important component of the verification process that we call production. Production is designed with three purposes in mind. First, it is intended to verify that the rates being billed to our clients accurately match the contracted and expected values. Second, it is intended to gather the information necessary to be able to compute what the actual savings are so that we can bill our clients for the value that we deliver to them. And finally, is to identify any billing errors or additional savings opportunities that may be available. This process is semi-automated in that we will download information on the invoices from online accounts whenever possible and import as much information as possible into TAMS so that it can perform the necessary calculations to determine the savings and validate the costs. So we will begin by identifying an account for a client that is necessary to be validated in the production cycle. And we will start with the TAMS scheduler. In the TAMS scheduler, it is a time-sorted list of tasks which can identify which clients, accounts, and billing cycles need to be reviewed, and then who they are assigned to. For today's demonstration, we will begin with a Quest account for a client called Hand and Upper X Center. Note that it is scheduled to be performed on the 18th of August, and this is for a billing cycle from Quest that is dated on the 11th of August. By default, TAMS tasks are created 1 week past the invoice date. This is because many carriers take at least 1 week before the information is posted on their website. Whenever possible, we gather information from the website. So we will begin by going to the Hand and Upper X Center Quest account. It identifies the account number as 588-2099. So we return to our client list, pull the Hand and Upper X Center, open the client details, and we go to the Quest account, which is scheduled to be reviewed. The Service Account Details form has a tab called Access Information. And from this, it provides the login portal URL, the login user ID and password, and optionally, if there is a secondary PIN required to log in to gather billing information. So by clicking the link, TAMS will automatically open the web portal for the particular account that we are working with. Now, every supplier has different account portals, and they are all customized in their own layout and behavior, but the process is the same across all clients and all service accounts. This particular account is a landline account, and we will only be focusing on the landline account. Although the steps are similar for cellular, the details of the cellular accounts is somewhat different than the landline accounts. So without going into too much detail about queue control, there are two types of data that we need to identify or gather from this website. The notes section on the account will detail the specifics of any given supplier account. This particular account, we're going to want to download the call detail records for long distance, and we're also going to want to gather a PDF copy of the invoice, which is more readable and includes all of the costs, including monthly recurring fees and taxes and surcharges, which are not included in the call detail records. So we will start, we can follow these instructions for this particular account and for this service provider for Quest. And log in, and then we will follow these steps to go gather analytics. And you can refer to the notes of any given account to at your discretion as to what the details are of gathering the data. But the high-level view is that we want to go gather the information of the call detail. So we go to the navigate through the website as appropriate in order to gather that. For Quest, we will go use what is called eBill Companion. While we are waiting for queue control to respond, I'll mention that we have a standard file structure where we store the data under each provider account for each client. That structure we will review later in this session. Now we will generate the request to gather the call detail records in queue control. While we were waiting for the response from queue control, we will go into our file structure, and we begin at the top level by going into the clients folder, selecting the specific client for Hand and Upper Rec Center, going into the production records, which contains all of the supplier accounts and their invoices, selecting the Quest folder. And since we only have a single Quest account, this is as far down as it goes, with the exception of a single folder for each billing cycle. So for the August billing cycle, we will need to create a new folder and use our naming convention of year, month, and day. This is so that when they're sorted by name, that they also are in chronological order. This is the most convenient naming convention for our purposes. There are scripts that will take the call detail records and convert them into a standard import format for TAMS. Because the data comes in many, many different formats from the various providers, we need to run some software as a preprocessor in order to convert the data into standard import format. So for Quest, there's a specific script, and we will take the shortcut for that script and copy it over to the new folder that where we will be storing the August 11th call detail record data. We see now that queue control has responded and has created the call detail record file for August. So we will now save this into our new production folder for Quest under Hand and Upper Rec Center production records for August 11th. So now that we have the call detail records, we also need to gather the PDF file. So we return to the queue control main page. Select Invoices. Select the invoice. PDF. Again, this will be unique for each different type of provider, but the general goals are the same. And then we submit a request to gather the PDF. While we are waiting for the PDF to be generated, we will return to the production folder and open the zip file and pull out the call detail records from this particular file. Again, this will be unique for each type of carrier. Now, returning to TAMS and referring to our notes, there is a script that is run, the quest.vbs script, in order to convert the call detail records from a unique format of Quest into the standard TAMS import format. And the only change we need to make to this command line for the script is the month of the billing data that we're working with. So we will make our change to the script, save that, and we will copy it. I prefer to use Control-C as a keyboard shortcut. And then we will go and run the script by double-clicking on the shortcut. It pops up a window that we then use Control-V or paste the command into this command line input and click OK. The script will execute and provide some status. It should produce a grand total of the number of calls and minutes and costs that was extracted and converted into the TAMS import format, and then press any key to continue. And now there is a file that is a comma-separated values file, a CSV file, which contains the properly formatted call detail records for import into TAMS. Now we can return to Queue Control to see if our PDF file is available yet. Sometimes this may take several minutes for it to be available. In fact, some carriers it may take up to 1 hour for the PDF file to become available for download. So we see that it is not ready yet. In the meantime, we can move forward. If we know the total cost of the invoice, we can proceed to import the call detail records into TAMS and perform our verification activities. We notice that this invoice, it has a balance of $767.25. So we will go to the TAMS Service Account Details form and click on the Account Invoice Data tab. The Account Invoice Data tab is where each billing cycle is recorded and the usage data is imported and validated. You can see by this table that there are many historical months of information that are available. The first step of validation can actually be performed manually by looking at the costs, the total cost, which is the billed amount from the supplier over an extended period of time. And if the cost is dramatically different than the historical values, then that may be the first indicator that something has changed on the account. So we may find a month where that's particularly high and question why it is so high. Of course, costs will vary with usage volume, and some customers have more seasonal, cyclical usage patterns, and others tend to be more consistent from month to month. But this visual clue is very useful in identifying a particular anomaly in billing costs. So in order to add the new billing month, we will add the new billing date. We will put in the new billing cost of $767.25, and we will select a mixed mode import, which from the form details identifies it as a call detail record import data file, which contains different types of call records, which may include local toll, long distance, toll-free, or local usage. So when we now click the Add Update billing cycle, since we have a new billing date and a cycle does not exist for that billing date, it will create a new billing cycle once we accept the import results. So we confirm our request, and then we are prompted to select the file to import. Notice that the Open File dialog automatically positions us on the hand and upper X root folder for this client. That is specified under the parameters of the client details and is covered under another training session video. So we will drill down to the Quest billing cycle that we are working with and select the properly formatted call detail records and click Open. Notice that the detail records are then individually verified to the 1 penny of accuracy each, and a total is listed at the bottom of the in the status bar of TAMS, showing how many valid records and how many invalid or ignored records. Ignored records are indications that the TAMS does not recognize the service, such as long distance, for a given phone number during a given date, a billing date of the call. We had 0 ignored records, so at this point TAMS does recognize that all of the call detail records belong to the account. There are, however, 4 invalid records, and the first window that is presented by TAMS shows what those invalid records are. And they are listed in this form is interactive. You can group and sort by all of the standard actions of a grid in TAMS by grouping by clicking on the headers or grouping by the headers. But one column that is particularly useful here is the cost delta column. And that cost delta column indicates the difference between the expected cost of a given call record and what the actual cost actually is. So the first record, for example, it was billed 32 cents for a call duration of 7.8 minutes on an intra-LATA call, and the expected value was only 31 cents with a delta of 1 cent. So in this particular case, the actual cost is 1 penny higher than the expected cost. The other 3 calls are 1 cent lower than the expected cost. And the total row indicates what the total cost delta is. Because of rounding differences by certain billing platforms, we will not concern ourselves with such a small price variance on 4 call records out of $700 worth of billing. So we will accept these records. It is possible to save these records to a file, and they will save to the folder in which the import file was selected from, and it will be prefixed with the invalid records indicator, and they can be saved for future reference if necessary. Once saved, you may accept and continue, or without saving, you may also accept and continue. Even though the error is small, we do want to make sure that we include the cost of these calls and that the savings of these calls will also be calculated by TAMS. So we want to accept these records, even though they have a slight error in the cost. We want those durations and costs to be included in our final assessment of this billing cycle. Once we accept the invalid records, we are then presented with the first 100 valid records, and also if we accepted the invalid records, there will be a note indicating that those that did not pass the validation will also be saved. So at this step, we will now accept these records to be saved and create the final billing cycle for August 11th. Because of the volume of records of almost 8,000 records, it may take a few seconds. Okay. So now that we have saved the billing cycle and accepted the records, you'll note that there is now a new billing cycle in TAMS with the total cost that was provided by the supplier. And in order to examine this in further detail, we want to go in and explore it further. So we can do that by double-clicking on the billing cycle or by saying manual entry, selecting the billing cycle and say add update billing cycle. I prefer double-clicking. And when the billing cycle details form is presented, you'll see a grid of all of the call detail records. Now, this grid is very useful in that it also can be grouped by billed phone number, or it can be grouped at multiple levels. If you wanted to build by remote phone number, you could group the phone numbers by billed phone number and remote phone number. You can sort. It's completely interactive, as are most of the grids in TAMS. At this point, our first primary goal is to see if our expected costs and the actual costs match each other. So we navigate to the billing cycle cost grid tab and click the Calculate Cost button. This action will take all of the usage costs that are contained in the call detail records and additionally add any monthly recurring costs for such things such as PIC fees or any, if there are other like local services or toll-free monthly recurring charges. In this particular account, there are no monthly recurring charges under the MRC column. It will compute all universal service fees and taxes. And most importantly of our interest is that it produces a total cost for all of the charges, including taxes and surcharges. And TAMS computes a value of $767.59. And it is colored green because it is within 1% accuracy of the actual invoice cost of $767.25. So in this particular scenario, the delta is only 34 cents over $767. So this is green because it is 1% accuracy. If it is yellow, then that means that it is outside of 1% but within 5% accuracy. And if it is outside of 5% accuracy, then it will be colored red. Red validations are not permitted, and they must be resolved by examining the PDF file. Let's take a look at the Q control to see if our PDF file is available. And it is. And we will now save that target into our folder for this client. And again, we adhere to our standard naming conventions so that it's consistent across all clients and all folders. And there it is saved for reference of the PDF. We may now log out of Q Control. Close that window. One action that is also available on this form, which is a very important step to perform, and that is to click the Check Data Integrity button. This ensures that both the current costs and any baseline rates that are necessary are properly set, and it will indicate if there are any potential problems with either the current cost or the original cost, such as having calls to foreign countries on the current billing cycle with the current supplier and not having a baseline rate to that foreign country in the baseline plan. In such a case, we would want to go back and backfill the rate for the baseline plan, so the TAMS would be able to compute an actual savings on those scenarios where there was not originally a rate available for a given country. So in this case, all data integrity checks have passed. We may close the billing cycle. Notice that this new billing cycle has not been invoiced and will not be checked as invoiced until a global invoice is run for the client. The notes have been updated with our new billing date on the script. We can save those changes, close this billing client service account details form, close the client details, return to the TAMS scheduler, and take that billing cycle, which is a recurring task for each month, open that particular occurrence, mark it as being completed, and save and close. And then on September 18th of September, there will be another occurrence of that task to be performed. One final note of a quality check that is useful to periodically review under a given account is on a given billing cycle to click a link called the Show Cost Savings Report, which will take the costs from this particular invoice and produce a report that shows what the savings are compared to the baseline for this particular client. Eventually, these savings will disappear once the 2-year billing cycle has expired. But in this particular case, the savings are 24.1% of what the original cost used to be, dropping what they would have paid of over $1,000 down to $767. So bringing in this data, we know because of the 1% accuracy calibration factor that both the baseline costs are within 1% accuracy and the optimized costs are within 1% accuracy. So the total savings are also within at least 1% accuracy. So there you have it, and good luck with it.